America will be punished by God himself.
The American empire is over. We're done. We peaked about 12, 15 years ago, and we are on a down. And it's very hard for the American people, which I understand. I am one. It's hard to get your head around that. We've had a century of on the way up, which is a lot more fun than on the way down. But it does happen to every empire. We're only the latest. Look at the British, how far they've fallen. We're in that process. So the problem with the trickle down is, yeah, there might be more jobs, but they're going to be created in China. They're going to be created in Brazil. They're going to be created in India. They're not created here.
The way empires rise is also the way they fall. America rose by colonial settler violence and expansion, and Israel is just a microcosm of that. They rose by belligerence and brutality and genocide, and this is exactly what's bringing them down now. Yes, it is violent. Yes, it is savage. Yes, it is criminal and horrific, and it's incredibly painful. But it's like water draining out from a pool. It moves faster and more violently at the bottom of the vortex until it disappears. What we're seeing now, in my opinion, is the dying spiral of American empire, and Israel is the drain that it's going down.
Wagwan, my beautiful family, welcome back to my YouTube space. Now, we all know about the issues that's going on in America, okay? And we're calling it the falling of empire. We have a lot of empires that have fallen. Rome fell, Britain, France is falling, America is crumbling. And you know why these empires are falling? Is because they were built on top of lies. They were built on back of other people. Okay, and it's just full of lies. So, family, the fall of America, this is the empire that once claimed to rule the world. It is in cracks right now. And in this video, I'm going to refer to voices of professors, for example, Professor Richard Wolff, pastors, and counselors, because they have confirmed to us, these are white professors, white preachers, white historians. They have confirmed to us that it is true. America is falling, okay? And not just America is falling, but again, black people continue to thrive. Black people continue to create and lead even as the system they build falls apart. So stay with me, but watch these videos first and then I'll come back with my commentary.
America, the imperial heir of Europe, the neoliberal economic firing squad of corporate power. They used to spray their bullets like a mass shooter all across the global south. Well, America is descending into madness. You're descending into madness because you're cursed. That's why I've said you cannot properly analyze geopolitics. You cannot properly analyze geopolitics if you exclude the reality of divine justice. You cannot exclude God from your assessments. You can't exclude Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from your forecasts. And you cannot be as unjust, as brutal, as degenerate, as wicked as America has been, and actually think that the consequences are not going to be severe. You understand? The suffering of whole continents at your hands is going to ricochet back onto America. I said you're cursed. You know it and I know it. That's the truth. We both know this. Because you can't have any sort of religious sense, any religious sense of justice, and not know that. Even if you call yourself a Christian, if you call yourself believing in God in any way whatsoever, you cannot pretend that you don't know that America is cursed, and it has been cursed ever since you all landed over there in the first place and started massacring the indigenous people and stealing their land. What your Zionist brigades are doing to the Palestinians right now is just a fraction of what you did to the Native Americans. What Hitler did was a fraction of what you did, in fact. And you really think that you were going to be able to escape the consequences of that? Of course not. Obviously not. Why do you even think for a minute that you could escape the consequences of decimating millions upon millions of people? To think that you would get away with that, wallahi, to even think that you could get away with that, to even think that you would never be held accountable for that is blasphemy. It's blasphemous for you to think that you could get away scot-free. Especially when you have never even done anything ever since then, except to compound the wrongdoing and to add to your record of crimes. You understand me? You have done nothing to atone. You haven't done anything to atone for what you have done. You and I both know that. Genocide, chattel slavery, rape, torture, lynching, murder, dehumanization, discrimination, segregation, exploitation, subjugation, war all around the world. Why, what sort of a God do you worship that would turn a blind eye to all of that? What kind of a God did you have in mind when you say, God bless America? Because I know you're not talking about the God. I know you're not talking about the creator of the universe. Bless America for what? Bless America for what? If you did what you did and then say, God bless America, that's just another blasphemy. Well, you're taking the Lord's name in vain when you say, God bless America. That's the truth.
This is the fall of America. It will be a quick, sudden disappearance. You'll sleep, you'll wake up, you'll hear America's gone. America, USA, was the reason for so many people to fall, to stumble and fall. Because of the technology, Hollywood, entertainment, money, power, you name it, America became the stumbling stone for so many people worldwide. Just like she made people fall, she will fall also. She will fall also. Up until verse 20, people mourned, people rejoiced over her fall. But verse 21 to 24, God himself will strike her down. Verses 21 to 24, which will be the continuation next week, God himself will strike her down. Look at verse 21. Then a mighty angel here is the wrath of God. A mighty angel represents the wrath of God. Then a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone. This great millstone, in the olden days, they used the millstone to crush grains of wheat and turn it into powder. Yes, the millstone used to be used to crush grains of wheat and turn it into powder. So this mighty angel, who is the wrath of God, took up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, thus with violence the great city Babylon shall be thrown down and shall not be found anymore. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. And this great city Babylon is the UN, by the support of America. Like this heavy millstone, when thrown into the sea, it sinks immediately. Thus will be the disappearance of the great city Babylon. It will be a sudden fall. You'll sleep, you'll wake up, you'll hear America is gone. That's how sudden it will be. Because this mighty angel, who is the punishment of God to America, he threw this stone like a great millstone. When you throw a heavy stone into the sea, what happens? It goes down straight away, doesn't it? Doesn't get afloat and then sink slowly. No, sinks immediately. Quick, sudden sinking. This is the fall of America. It will be a quick, sudden disappearance. But the problem of verse 21, and it will be seen no more. So when America falls, it will never recover. Never. That will be the end of America as a superpower. You know, like Egyptian empire, a superpower. There is still Egypt. There are still Egyptians, but they are no longer superpower. For thousands of years they haven't. And all the empires that once they fell, they never recovered. But the people are still there, but no more. So when America falls, there will be America, but no more a superpower. No more a superpower. Finito.
We lost the war in Vietnam, we lost the war in Afghanistan, we lost the war in Iraq, and we're in the process of losing it in Ukraine. Hint! What is that about? These are not just wars the United States lost, but let's be clear. The United States, one of the richest countries in the world, went to war in countries that are among the poorest in the world and were defeated. It's over. We are not the center of the world economy the way we were. Every country in the world is rethinking its strategy. Political, economic, military, ideological. Every company in the world that has any international business is trying to figure out, what does this mean?
America is going to be the poorest country in the world starting now. You're going to see the biggest crashes happening right now. So that's good for me because the price of gold and silver go up.
That's interesting because most people in India until the last decade have been migrating to the US. thinking that that is where is the land of opportunity, to pursue the great American dream. But over the last 2 years, we've seen an increasing number of people coming back in droves, back to India, because that's where they're seeing the opportunity. So that is a very interesting shift that I never thought would happen so quickly.
You're one of those people that you got problem with black people or whatever, you better shut your mouth, because they're God's people. You better hear what I'm saying to you. You better shut your white mouth. You better shut your white mouth. I'm not kidding you. I know some of you was raised in the deep South, and you was raised by prejudiced people and bigoted people. You better get that out of your system. You better get it out of your system. It'll cause you to suffer right along with those masters. It'll cause you to suffer right along with them. These are God's people. And I know that there's wicked in white races and wicked in black races and all that. I'm not justifying none of that stuff. I'm just saying God knows what happened to the black race. He knows how they wound up over here, and God is going to reimburse the black people for all their trouble and all their labor. You watch what I tell you.
Beautiful kings and queens, let me talk about something very important here. Okay? The economy, America has long bragged about being the wealthiest nation in the world, the land of opportunity, like being the wealthiest, the dreamland. The cracks are widening because it is falling, it is cracking. Someone like Professor Richard Wolff, a white economist, has repeatedly warned that the capitalist system in the United States is unsustainable. Okay? He points out that wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few rich white people, while millions of Americans struggle just to survive. Jobs are disappearing, industries are collapsing, and the middle class is shrinking. He said that, but it was like a warning, but I think most of Americans didn't listen to that. Now it's happening. So this is not just speculation, okay? Look at the rising inflation that is happening, the banking crisis, the housing crisis, and the student debt that enslaves the entire generation. White Gen Zs cannot cope up with this, okay? So Professor Richard urges that these are not isolated incidents. They are systematic failures that indicate a nation in decline. And it's not just about these white economists noticing this. White preachers too, like John Kilpatrick, have also warned of God's judgment on America, speaking openly about moral decay, about corruption, and the injustice, the plagues, the plagues that I even talked about on my previous episodes. It's happening. According to this preacher, the treatment of black people and marginalized community is glaring example of this failure of America. So while America is falling apart, black people continue to rise, okay? Despite systematic oppression, black communities have built businesses. Black communities have developed culture, excelled in education, and nurtured resilience that American system cannot break, okay? So what white voices are admitting now is what black people have always known. The system they build is crumbling, but as the descendants of strength, black Americans as the descendants of strength remain unshaken, okay? And this economic collapse, it's only one piece of the puzzle that is showing us that indeed America is falling. Because apart from economics, let's look at the political collapse, and social unrest. Now, I'll say this. There is this retired Colonel Douglas. He is a white military and a strategist, I think. He openly discussed the decline of American influence on the global stage. He warns the military overreach. He warned the political infighting. He warned the erosion of trust in institutions, okay, saying that they are pushing America towards internal collapse. So the empire that once seemed untouchable is now vulnerable, okay? And even its own leaders struggle to maintain control. There's a lot of white people have come out and talk about this, okay? There's this white political theorist, Naomi. Naomi said that the combination of foreign policy failures, economic inequality, and systematic deception of the public has weakened the moral and structural foundation of the country, America, okay? And he emphasized that this isn't just about politics, it's about values and systems America claimed to uphold. So, America fight itself, okay? Black people continue to thrive and strengthen even in the midst of the fight, in the midst of the cracks. Okay? Where there is political fail, black people organize. Where corruption spreads, black people innovate. Where the system tries to break black people, they rise. They rise. Okay? And social unrest is evident everywhere. I know you know that. It's evident everywhere. We have protests, riots, political polarization. These are signs that a once unified nation is now tearing apart itself. Okay? And through all of this, black people remain resilient. The culture, business, art, and the leadership continue to shine even in the empire collapses. Okay? Now, let me talk about one sermon from Pastor John Kilpatrick. He's a white preacher, and he warned repeatedly that America is facing God's judgment. Okay? He spoke openly about nation corruption, about its exploitation of the vulnerable, and its failure to protect justice. Okay? According to Kilpatrick, this is not just politics or economics. It's spiritual collapse. Okay? And he is not alone. Many white clergy, many white professors and researchers are quietly acknowledging that the values America once claimed to uphold, integrity, justice, and morality, are being eroded. Right now, families are struggling. Families are struggling, whether white family, black family, it doesn't matter the color. You have seen white farmers are struggling. White doctors or teachers are struggling. Okay? Everyone is struggling. Communities are breaking down. And trust me, even in leadership, it is crumbling. Okay? But yet, in the midst of this spiritual decay, black people continue to rise. Black communities are guided by resilience, are guided by faith, by wisdom. Okay? Our ancestors, where others fall morally, black people cultivate strength, cultivate integrity, cultivate leadership. Okay? The culture, the art, and spirituality remain beacon, a light that the falling empire cannot distinguish or cannot extinguish. So this is a pattern we see repeatedly. While the empire built by white America falls, black people remain strong, economically, politically, and spiritually. Okay? So white America struggles to maintain its influence. We're seeing that. We're seeing the collapse or the cracks, the crumbling that is between America and a neighboring country. But at the same time, black people are innovating. You are innovating, man. You are great. I see you creating. I see you leading, from music, fashion, art to business, influencers. Okay? Even white researchers admit this. They acknowledge that black culture have shaped modern society in ways the empire cannot ignore. Think about this. Hip-hop, okay? Rap music, jazz, and even fashion trends all have roots in black creativity. Okay? We agree with that. Intelligent or the intellect and innovation of black people continue to impact the world up to now. Okay? Even as the system tries to suppress black people, white professors like Vincent Lloyd, and thinkers like Dr. Amos Wilson have highlighted how black resilience and integrity survive despite of systematic oppression. Okay? And this is not just cultural. It is strategic. Black communities have always found ways to adapt. Black communities have found ways to survive and thrive. Okay? White America faces political division, economic collapse, and moral decay, but black people continue to educate, innovate, and strengthen their communities. Okay? Even white commentators are beginning to admit this. They recognize that no matter how much the system tries to hold us back, black people have the strength. Black people have the intellect. Black people have the creativity to rise above. Okay? Even the media that used to paint black people in different ways, they don't have something to say again. They quiet, nothing to say. Kings and queens, to understand what is happening right now, we must look to history. Never leave history. Okay? Every empire that overreached, every empire that corrupted itself and ignored justice, it has failed. Okay? And through each collapse, black people endured, black people survived, and even thrived. I said about the Roman Empire, fast, powerful, yet morally corrupt and internally divided. While Rome crumbled, African civilization, African communities, and cultural tradition continued. The wisdom of our ancestors preserved knowledge spiritually and resilience that empires could never ever destroy. Okay? Closer to modern times, consider slavery and colonialism. White empires attempted to enslave, exploit, and erase black people. Yet despite centuries of oppression, black people survived. Despite centuries of colonization, black people, Africans, survived. Despite centuries, black people pierced through. Okay? The culture, spiritually, and intellect. Black have created music, art, fashion, governance, and resistance movement when under pressure. What does that tell you? This is historical truth. And this is why we are unshakable up to today. While white farmers are crying, black farmers are not crying. White preachers, professors, and researchers confirm that America is falling, okay? But black people are standing firm economically, politically, spiritually, and culturally. So this lesson is so much clear. Just as empires of the past fell, so too will America. But black people, the descendants of strength, vision, they stand strong. When I talk about modern, when we leave out the history, we talk about modern. Despite of the America falling, the America system, black people continue to excel in every field right now as we are talking. In business, we have talked about that. Entrepreneurship, we've talked about that. Okay? And I'll say this. Academically, too, black scholars and researchers continue to challenge the narrative, proving that intelligence, strategy, and leadership are inherent to black communities. Okay? Universities and think tanks are beginning to recognize that the contribution of black intellect is shaping society in ways that it's undeniable. Okay? Even culturally, black people are the trendsetters. We set trends, they follow. We are the influencers, creators of movements, that the world follows. From music all the way to film, art, fashion, name them. Black people are strong, creative, and unstoppable. Okay? And this is why the fall of America is not a defeat for black people. The fall of America is not a defeat to anyone. The fall of white structures is not a defeat to black people. The fall of France is not a defeat to Burkina Faso. It's not a defeat to the countries that they colonized. The fall of Rome was not a defeat to African countries, to black people. The fall of Britain Empire is not a defeat to Caribbean. Okay? You get this? And the world is beginning to see this. Our ancestors also knew. They always knew that black people are resilient, powerful, and unstoppable. And this is too spiritual. Someone like preachers like John Kilpatrick has been clear. America is facing divine judgment. He speaks of moral decay. He speaks of injustice. He speaks of corruption. He speaks of everything, and he is warning that the empire is being held accountable. And these are not just words. They are spiritual confirmation of what history and current events show. Even some white preachers or some white researchers and commenters who may not speak in religious terms recognize the spiritual and moral bankruptcy of America. Okay? They admit that the value the nation once claimed, it is not there anymore. It is prophetic. It is biblical. It's ending. Okay? And this is one of the moments the black ancestors foretold. While systems crumbled, we rise as black people. While others panic, we organize. While empires fall as black people, our legacy endures. And that is us. I hope you get something from this video. So as a black person, don't sit down folding your hands. We're not saying that white people are bad, but the white structures, the white privilege, the white system that was put there is the one that is eating even its own people right now. DJT is the one accelerating this end, this falling of these empires. Tell me what you think in the comment section. Until next episode, peace out.